Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. Glad to see everyone here. And it's really nice to have Christina Moon and Karrie Kais on the webinar. Thanks, guys, for coming in. Or coming
Hi.
on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks.
It's like monitors are so tricky. It's one thing that I feel like, especially with wedges, there's some kind of magic that I can never get correctly. Every time I'm trying to really get something going correctly, I feel like I get lost a little bit. So I'm excited. Maybe pick your guys' brains about how you do it. And I think in previous webinars we've talked about IEMs, IEM mixing, and I know that's kind of a big part of music production these days. And I know you guys deal with that stuff too. But wedges are tricky, and it changes from stage to stage and microphone to microphone and all that stuff. So we kind of brought up a little bit just before we came on that, we've all been out of work and out of practice for so much. It's kind of weird thinking about this stuff and thinking about process and sequence and all that. But I don't know. It's fun to kind of get on these videos and talk about this stuff. I miss it.
It's good for my brain.
So,
Yeah.
So yeah, what have you guys been up to? And besides in your downtime, off tour time, anything?
Not a ton.
Going on? Yeah.
It's ski season now, so that's been nice to get outside and do that. But lately there's been so much snow I can't even get up there. So
Yeah, it's snowing here.
Got snowed in.
Yeah, that rarely happens. So that was nice.
All right. Well, let's jump in and talk about, I don't know what we want to get started with, but maybe one of my favorite topics is EQ, parametric versus graphic. What do you guys do? Karrie, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I guess it kind of depends on what I'm EQing. I wouldn't use a graph on my in-ears. Just using the board parametric, which I'm using a Digico SD5, and that takes care of pretty much any issues. I have a couple of band guys with hearing issues, so there's kind of drastic EQ cuts. And then just using it to fine tune any issues in whatever brand of in-ears that we're using, which I'm lucky I get to use three or four different brands on my stage.
Oh,
so
nice.
Nothing is consistent.
How do you even do that? Do you have do you have models? Like different ones?
I have two models taped together that I can grab fairly easily during the show on one pack and throw them in. And then it's just guessing after that. I have ears that match everybody's, and I'll sound check and line check with them, but showtime I'm grabbing whatever's the most important. And I'll use graphics. I'm just using the Digico graphics for wedges.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I've heard some people say that like graphics kind of have tougher phase issues with like trying to get a better gain before feedback. But
yeah, I mean, if you start getting in and you're hacking your graphs, you're adding all sorts of phase weirdness to it. Luckily, we're kind of stable and there's not that much EQing that I need to do. My vocal is the one that I got to watch out for. But, on a day-to-day basis, I'm EQing the vocal wedges kind of on a regular basis. We'll go maybe 2 or 3 shows and I'm like, on the main wedges, I'm like, time to start over, flatten them out.
Yeah.
So I don't dig myself into a hole.
Yeah. Christina, do you usually have graphics that you reach to like during a show?
Yeah, especially for the quick stuff, if I'm catching, I tend to stay more on the graphs for feedback catching and whatnot. And like Karrie, it depends on what I'm doing and, with the band, on LCD when I had 40 different boxes on stage and everything's kind of just doing a different thing. The side fills are more of a PA. So I'm definitely like, I would be in the amps processors, kind of getting a basic, this is what sounds good to music through those, and then kind of going into a parametric with that. And that usually was enough for those. But, you know, on certain nights, if people are struggling to hear and if vocal mics are getting too loud, then I'm going to a graph to catch whatever is going on there. But yeah, usually on a wedge, you know, just doing vocal stuff, I'll probably just stick to a graph and, you know, because I'll have parametrics on the inputs.
Right.
Doing that stuff.
Could you talk through that LCD setup a little bit? Like what you had going on? I remember like, yeah, coming to one of your rehearsals once and it was, whoa, geez.
It was a lot. Well, there was, from my first tour cycle with them in 2010, it was still just getting to know the band and getting to know James, because he has a very specific style and sound of things that he wants, which is a vintagey style. And so I was coming in, I'm a D&B fan. And so, you know, bringing all of this stuff in, and he just wasn't into it at all. He, you know, he wanted JBL, speakers from the 80s out there. And I wasn't into that at all, because I didn't want to deal with the upkeep of that on tour, you know, because just going to blow him up all the time. And their synth world was a lot more unstable back then too. So, you know, I was blowing up, you know, C7s and M2s, which is not easy to do because I never knew what was coming down those synth lines. Sometimes they send me some crazy wave and it would just shred things. And so this time around, I kind of just had Eighth Day dump a truck at CMS in Brooklyn, and we just kind of started playing around with things. And in a way, we found kind of that the more speakers that were around and creating personal zones and spaces for people was more effective than just trying to get a couple speakers to do this huge job that wasn't really, you know, it wasn't really possible. So it just grew really quick. Like I think my last count was 40 different boxes. So, you know, even on James alone, just for his world, we're like 2 Syncos out of, you know, the Netherlands, which were kind of my nemesis. They're very finicky, like his mic, like no 2 sound the same. They're snowflakes. And me putting like Q7s, we had some metal built so that Q7s could kind of sit on top of those for music. But then trying to think of a low profile sub to have down there to kind of balance out that low end of the Q7s. It ended up just being, you know, like a kicker that should be in the trunk of a car strapped to the riser, to having, you know, an M2 behind him, filling that out. And then the side fills, which were C7s and B2s, were basically for him as well. So it was just, so then I'm kind of just trying to protect people from him in a sense, you know, and creating a space for them within that, which I think Karrie can relate to.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I'm sure, you know, if the focus is really on somebody and they tour forever, and, you know, you kind of get a bigger idea every tour of what you want and what you want to expand it to. And it grows and grows.
Yeah,
huh?
It just grows, you know, yeah, for the main synth player alone. I don't know, it was kind of a, you know, a surround sound experience in a way, like a pseudo, you know, there would be 4 different zones, and within that stuff for her as well, you know, like old Moog horns with, you know, some bass cabinets with me built, you know, sandwiching around that, and with some M4s down on the floor. So it just kind of where anyone could go and stand at any time, it could be, you know, made for their experience.
Totally. Karrie, has your Pearl Jam stage setup evolved over time?
Yeah, yeah, it's evolved, but it evolves slowly. I think we're in a good place right now. 2013, we kind of did a big overhaul. Started using baffles on stage, which has helped immensely and just cleans up everybody's, like Christina was saying, their spaces and their zones. Not getting a ton of bleed into the center of the stage anymore, which super nice.
Yeah.
That must have been amazing to get that sorted.
Super amazing.
What are you using to baffle? Is it like plexi?
We're just, no, not plexi, just normal
like
studio baffles that we
Yeah.
kind of just, we spray painted them black, and a couple go in front. Well, Ed sets up his guitar rig right behind him, so it's right in front of the drum riser.
Yeah.
And that is the loudest thing on stage. So we baffle, and it's all open back, so it was blowing underneath the drum riser and into drums and into the bass area. So we baffled all of that,
Right.
and that stopped that. So that was nice. And then each person just has 2 baffles divided between their spaces.
Cool.
There's baffles that we ran underneath the drum riser, so they attach to the drum riser, and it kind of just keeps diffusing and breaking up stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, it evolves and it changes. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's like, I stopped counting, so I think the last time I counted, there was over 40 mixes on stage. And then when we were doing pre-production for this tour that got canceled last year, we had added another musician. So that added another ear mix, and I think we were going to add wedges at some point, but we never got out on the road. So
yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on, but everybody kind of seems stable at this point.
So when you're using both in-ears and wedges, like is everyone different with like trying to rely on what is the balance between the two, or is the wedges really just for the feel of it and a backup? I mean, are people popping ears out, like doing half and half?
Yeah. I think it's different for everybody on my stage. Ed's not using ears at all anymore, which is unfortunate for me. Makes my day really long and hard, and the show long and hard. I have 2 guys that use one ear. I've given up. I tried to break them from it, but it's never going to happen. So they're more using the ear for, the definition on everything, and then the wedges for the feel.
Right.
And then I got 3 other guys that all have at different stages of their ears constantly hurting with tinnitus. So they're kind of more using their ears as earplugs with some definition in them.
Right.
Yeah.
That seems difficult to get a good mix going that way, but.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, I think a lot of people coming into monitors, approach it as we're going to do a front of house mix.
Yeah.
When you really have to approach it to what does the artist that you're mixing for need to hear during a show?
Mm-hmm.
And that changes. I've done bands that they want, it's a full front of house mix on stage. Right. And then, Pearl Jam is each person has their own thing going on, and it's not a cohesive sound on stage,
I mean, do you have a kind of like a front house type mix going on in sidefills or something like that, or
nope?
No, nothing like that.
No, we have flown sidefills, and those are just for Ed. It's just vocal aimed at the center of the stage, and then a couple cues. There's occasionally keyboards in there for a beginning of a song that everybody needs, or his acoustic guitars, and that's it.
Yeah, crazy. So what's his polar pattern of his mic? What mic does he use?
We were using an Audix OM7.
OM7.
Yeah.
So are you like do you have like a horseshoe of wedges around him, I assume?
There is a horseshoe. I just sent you some pictures I emailed you if you want to.
Okay, I'll see if I can get those
up. Yeah, there's he has 1, 2, 3. So there are 6 wedges in front of them going in a horseshoe on 3 mixes. And then 2 rear fill wedges for them, and then the side fills, the flown side fills, which are K2s. There's 4 cabinets aside up in the air.
All right, so I'm gonna I'll share this and take a look here. How do I do this? I'm a bit of a Luddite, even though I'm a technician.
It's out of my wheelhouse.
Make sure I get the right one here. Okay, hold on. Well, it's turning into a whole thing now.
Okay, well.
I'm almost there. I'm almost there. You know, it won't let me do it because I'm recording.
That's all right.
But I mean, I can maybe explain this a little bit. So yeah, so I mean, how much are you thinking about the polar pattern of the mic when you're kind of building the horse?
Well, I think you know, that's super interesting, and I think it's super important. I think as monitor engineers, we a lot of times we can't think about that because we're limited to where the wedges are going to go on stage.
Yeah. And
you know, the center of the stage is not an ideal place for the singer to begin with. You know, so I would rather them be off in a corner on the side of the stage, but that's never going to happen. And then, you know, most people, they want the wedges in front of them, or they don't, you know, you got to leave an open space to get across the stage, or lights are going someplace. So I think a lot of times you're just stuck and trying to, you know, you have to figure out the best way to get your job done. And it's not always necessarily what the microphone is. You know, you might want to use a certain mic and the artist is married to something that just sounds terrible and you have to try to use it every day, right? So
it happens a lot, right? I mean, I think
we often don't have a choice. In what's going on.
So a lot of times we're just limited about like that. This is where they're going, and this is the microphone you're using, and then if they're really picky, these are the wedges I want to use, and maybe none of that stuff even complements each other or even works together as a team, right?
Well, I mean, Christina, you got James singing through that, you know, what, 409?
Like, 409, yeah.
You know, it's his thing, right? I mean, that's got to be tough to deal with.
It is. Well, they all sound different, you know, and they're going to maybe last a couple weeks if you're lucky before you have to start getting down into, you know, number 2, 3 microphones. So yeah, they were finicky, and he was willing to try something else for the last tour cycle. He really wanted a condenser, and Steve and I, the front of house guy, were just like, oh, no, you're not Whitney Houston. You're dropping this, becomes a percussion mic at times. Like, it's going to bring at some point people to their knees, you know, in pain, you know. So then we were trying to build different microphones because he was willing to even hold something, but then Steve and I kind of put the kibosh on that because we were just like, that's just not good. It's going to look weird with you, and we're just used to this thing. So it ended up going back to the 409s, but then we were running those through the Portico, you know, 5052s, which really helped a lot. And nice that you know, working with someone that is understand and willing to, you know, kind of spend that money on those things. But but that was his mic, and we just stayed on eBay all the time and bought everyone we could find.
Yeah. I mean, at least he's aware.
Yeah.
I mean, he used to be a front of house engineer, like way back in the day. You know, so
yeah.
You know, he and I geeked out a little bit on that stuff because when I've toured with,
which can help and hurt at times.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I can imagine it'd be tough because, you know, and touring with Juan McLean, same thing. Like, you know, they're old buddies from DFA, and they're always geeking out about gear.
Exactly. Yeah.
but if you have if you have the budget, you can kind of afford to do.
Budget can make a big difference.
Yeah.
But you need a crew, you need a team that's willing to kind of get in there and do it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and we would go into rehearsals for probably, 3 months at a time. So we were also afforded the time to get everything to work and to, play with different scenarios and setups to make everyone happy and life easier. Yeah.
So you're leaning on like a monitor tech. It's pretty heavy, right?
Oh, yeah.
I guess both you guys do.
I just lost my guy though. 12 years. Yeah.
So can you talk about that, like the relationship of just or what that person does for our viewers, and I don't know, that relationship that you develop. I mean, it's important, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just nice having someone that knows you that well and knows what, I'm going to need and where my priorities lie. And we don't even have to talk about it. And that part is just amazing to not have to train yourself. But yeah, my guy retired that I'd had for 12 years. So
did mine.
Did he? Oh, that's right. No, I did know that. And you're just like, what am I going to do? But yeah, I mean, he would, typically just kind of where I didn't have to think about what was going on deck. And I would take care of, setting up monitor world and getting through all of that. And I trusted him, when he was out and I'm pinking wedges and he's telling me that everything's working, I trusted him that he knew that. And that's not always the case.
Yeah. Sure.
So I'm sure Karrie can.
Yeah. I mean, it's super important, that relationship, because, like everything Christina said, there's just, they have your back, and there's certain things I don't have to think about, and I know they're taken care of. And I worked with Peter Bazin for, I don't know, since 2005, 15 years. So there was, we are like the married tour couple,
Exactly.
like there was things that we never even had to say to each other. Right. And I trusted him 100%. And then, he's that monitor tech, the engineer techs are kind of in between. They're in a weird place because most likely they're working for the sound company directly. So they're working for the sound company, but they're more on the artist side, so Peter might have been getting paid by Rat, but, he came everywhere with us.
Exactly. Yeah, same.
So he was part of the band crew also, and he just kind of having your back and knowing that things are going to be right, and that you get along, because I've had texts that you're just like, go away, like I can't, you're adding more stress to my life.
Exactly.
And he just having someone to bounce things off of like, this is going on and we could figure out solutions together. It's super important. Sound Girls we're actually doing a webinar on this Saturday on the different skills that you need to actually tech for engineers versus being system tech or stage patch.
Awesome. Well, I'll send an email out to that about that to all my people. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's one reason sound companies want to hire good techs too. If you want to it can be steady working for sound companies, and if sound companies want to provide that service to artists and keep artists around, we have these great engineers to offer. I know. I don't know. I've never really done a lot of work for sound companies, but I know a lot of people that do, that get a lot of good work from it and enjoy it a lot. So, but yeah, I don't know. Being on tour and not getting along with someone that you have to see every day is incredibly depressing.
It's so depressing.
I don't know. I've only walked off a tour once, quit a tour once because of someone else, but it was a production manager I couldn't get along with. But it's tough.
Yeah, super tough. I mean, like, if you don't trust your tech 100%, it's just another of like what's going to go wrong during the show. or
Exactly.
or like, can my tech call Digico, open this board up and get it running again?
Yeah, you need tons of skills, right?
Yeah. And that's like, I mean, that's super scary now with digital, because like now we're computer techs too, right? That's not what anybody trained for. And so opening up a digital console or getting into the computer of it while you're on the phone with Digico while front of house is trying to EQ, that's super scary. And you got to trust that person that's doing it, because
yeah. Let's take a couple questions.
Sure.
We're going to take questions on IEMs too here. But how do you and your artists deal with comparing different custom IEMs before choosing a model? You guys work directly with your bands with that stuff?
I did.
I try to. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess LCD average.
Yeah, there's certain brands that I recommend over others. So,
due to customer service.
Yeah, good tech support and customer service is the first one. It's kind of changed over the years. When we first tried out in-ears, I went with Future Sonics, and that was in, I don't know, 2005 or something. Might have been earlier. But I chose them at that point in time. It was kind of JH, Future Sonics, and Ultimate Ears. I kind of picked something that, because I knew they weren't going to really get rid of wedges right away. I wanted something natural that they were going to transition to easily, instead of going, I don't like this, and taking it out right away. And then over the years, we just, Jeff, our bass player, he picked his own ears. I'm like, fine, don't care, as long as you're happy. And everybody's kind of, so I have, at this point, I have JH for Evie when he uses ears, which it's not on a Pearl Jam stage, but it's like if we have to go do the Oscars or something like that, or he's going to do guest vocal for The Who and they don't have any wedges or something like that. And then Stone and Matt are using Stealth Sonics in-ears, which is a kind of a newer company, but we've been having really good luck with them. And then Jeff and Mike use a company called Cleartunes, and that was the company Jeff wanted to use, and he got Mike on them, and all the companies are fine and reliable and have good customer service. So.
Yeah, and there's a lot more small boutique-y ones coming out, right? I mean, the manufacturing is getting accessible enough that people can do it. Christina, what are your favorites?
I prefer Ultimate Ear personally, just because they're always been, really supportive of getting things to me fast. And if there's an issue, needing a repair, it gets done really fast and without a lot of issue. But I mean, I've had bands on Sensophonics for a long time. That was fine. And obviously JH sounds great. So it kind of just, I have a closer relationship with Ultimate Ear. So that's kind of my go-to.
Yeah.
But sometimes management tries to get involved in that decision, and there can be, different variables.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly.
We'll take another question from Kenneth here. How does your wedge mixing change when moving between large outdoor stages and say like smaller clubs with low ceilings? Are there different things that you're thinking about, or is it easier to get away with more outside, I guess? And then do you ever kind of like do any like analyzation on a room or a stage or anything to try to kind of figure out it's all just
I don't know.
Yeah, the rig doesn't really change from small to big. The rig's what it is, and we're cramming in an arena band into a club is never fun. We all know that.
No.
So the only things that might change inside in a tinier place is we run out of room.
Yeah.
So sidefills might have to go on the ground, or they might have to, I want them in the air, but, might stack them on cases or something like that. So we might have to build cases out in the barricade to extend the stage and put the wedges out on that. And then you're just dealing with weird volume issues at that point, or weird club sound versus arena or stadium outdoor sound. And battling with that. And that's just, for us, that's going to be a weird one-off. So everybody's coming in of like, okay, what are we going to have to do to make this work today? But yeah, the rig doesn't really change. Just the parameters of how we're driving it.
Totally. And if you're inside, you got to deal with front of house, probably more bouncing back.
Yeah, inside at a theater or a club it's going to be more of a battle, especially for a band that plays arenas and stadiums, and we could go in and they're like, doesn't sound like the arena. I'm like, yeah, we're not in an arena today. Haven't noticed, but somehow they still want it to sound like the arena.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, it's just, it's weird things like that. We kind of, and the arenas and stadiums, we're kind of flying the PA kind of far out from the band so that they're not having to hear it.
That's nice.
But then they also sell 360. So they're surrounded by PA, and there's just that energy that's, a couple, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago, we did a smaller tour in the South. So the arenas were a little bit smaller, and there was we had a couple markets that we only sold 270. And that never happens. It hasn't happened since 92.
Right.
So they've always been surrounded by PA, and it was 2 shows in a row. And I remember Jeff saying to me, he's like, it just sounded great last night. He's like, did anything change? I'm like, yeah, we weren't surrounded by PA. And he's like, wow, that is amazing. And then the next day he's like, it's the same today. I go, yep, no, we're not surrounded by PA. And he's like, what do we have to do to change that? And I'm like, that is way up the scale for me, guys. Like, you're a band guy, you can figure that one out.
You're going to cut that many sections so you can hear better? No, you're not going to do that. Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you're going to be dealing with artist feelings about it more than what the rig is doing, because whenever you're switching between those two, and if you've been doing clubs and theaters for a little while and all of a sudden you're out on a festival stage, they feel exposed. They're not getting that pushback from the PA. They feel like, everything is quiet. My stuff isn't working. And it's like, no, we're there. You have space now, and vice versa. All of a sudden, all those frequencies are now piling on top of each other. There's, ground stacked PA on the stage or something. And I'll just kind of then more mess around with like clearing out my low end and, just having to use the house more to kind of fill out. Because oftentimes if you listen to my wedges on their own, they're going to sound terrible because I'm not mixing for that person to be standing there alone with a microphone. Yeah. It's, it's for the whole.
Those wedges are to cut through the PA noise.
Yes. Yes. Not to sound good on their own. Not to sound good. Yeah, exactly. Because they don't.
Are you guys time aligning anything?
No.
Speaker to speaker? No, nothing.
No. Every time I've tried to time align, well, first of all, I don't want to time align my wedges to my sidefills, because I want my wedges to be right.
Quick, past
that sound to be right there. Take your head off, right?
Yeah.
And anytime I've done anything that time alignment may have fixed on stage, it introduced other issues. So I try to keep the signal as clean. It's in,
The
out.
same. I'm basic. Yeah. It's easy to dig holes, I feel like, when you start, playing with a bunch of plugins or a bunch of, I just like to keep it as clean as possible.
The latency is going to kill you, right? I mean, it's just going to make it sound, I mean, it's a hard thing with using the digital, like wireless or whatever,
Yeah. And a lot of artists can hear, all of that, like, processing in amps and stuff like that. And they just,
when we first went to ears, Ed was only using one ear. We made a transition to ears first, and then on the next leg tried to transition into a digital console. And at that point in time, really the only console that we could use was a PM5D. That was a long time ago. Midas hadn't really worked out all their kinks yet, and same with Digico. So but the latency, he could just, at the first rehearsal, he's like, I don't know what's going on. This is like, what changed? This is terrible.
Yeah.
Like the board's the only thing, and then I'm on the phone. They're like, people are like, oh, this is probably what's happening. Like, I pulled him out and I put him on a little, I don't remember if it was a Mackie or a Behringer, but like we had a little, one of the techs in the warehouse, he had a little Behringer mixer this big that he was using to put like his radio, his phone into, right? I was like, can I borrow this for a minute? Plug the vocal in, the Ed's ear mix, and he was like, oh, you fixed it. That's good. I was like,
amazing, right?
Yeah. So, you gotta be really careful with all that stuff, and you start adding weird layers in, and it could go wrong pretty quick.
Especially with like all the plugins and stuff. I don't know. It's, I don't know. I have to go through. I use a lot of plugins in front of house. I don't know, but I kind of get too far into. But like,
I think that's different. Yeah.
We have to go through, but I have to go. I have latency I have time to work with, because of the speakers or offstage. But I still have to go. Still have to go through and like make sure that the latency for each channel it's all lined up. You can't really just willy nilly let all that stuff go and. It just kind of gets really messy quickly, and you can hear it. And I don't know, latency is, any little bit of latency, just immediately, people say you can't hear it up to 3 milliseconds or 5 or whatever, but
you can sense it.
Yeah, you can sense it.
You might not be able to hear it, but you're like, what's wrong?
It's not quite like lined up, but quick question from Liam Devlin. He was asking about if you're using all those wedges for Ed, Karrie, 3 mono mixes across the 6 wedges. I guess he's asking, are they mono, or are you doing anything in stereo in those?
Nothing in stereo.
All mono.
I mean, the side fills are essentially in stereo, but I don't run them in stereo just in case I need control over one side. So the setup, I'll put them on my Facebook later if you guys want to go see the pictures. I'll just put them up after this. There is, right in front of him is a dummy wedge that is his music stand. And we can put lyrics or whatever he needs there. Off to the side of that is 2 Rat S wedges that I'm running vocal in, but it's not, those aren't his main wedges. That's if he's getting close up front, it's adding some high-end definition that, he might have lost from just moving position. Next to that are 2 Rat micro wedge 12s. That's his instrument makes it. So kick snare, his guitar, acoustic guitars, any cues that he needs. So keyboard cues, maybe Mike's acoustic guitar, occasionally Mike's electric, but they're all cues. They're all for like intros for the beginning of a song or something. His main wedges are going to the polar pattern, are off to the side of him. So they're pretty much aimed at his ears, but they are I wouldn't say in the middle of the stage, but we're taking up a lot of real estate at that point. People got to be careful that they're not gonna trip over them in the dark. Those are his main wedges. I can get them super loud. It's mainly where he stands if he's not moving around. The mic and the wedges work best in that spot. But that took 25 years, 26 years to be able to go, can I put wedges here?
Yeah.
And that's a pair of S wedges, and those things they're a lot of high end, and they scream and they hurt and they don't sound pretty. And then behind them are just another two pair of Rat S wedges that it's just to fill in.
Cool.
If he moves back by the drum riser. But once, what I try to do is if he's standing in the center of the stage, I want everything to sound like it's coming from right there. So I'm not overpowering the stage with the side fills. When the side fills are on, it just kind of tightens everything. And it's like, instead of, a lot of times, 4 K2s on each side of the stage, that's a PA.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get those things louder than anything else on stage, but then it's just a wash. It's just more PA. So I'm using them just aimed right at him. And when it clicks, it sounds tight and full in the center of the stage.
Cool.
He's kind of on his own if he leaves that area. I don't have room to put wedges anywhere else, and he doesn't go off center that much. So,
well, speaking of Christina, how'd you deal with yes? I mean, Karen was just running all over the place, right?
Yeah.
Or did you have?
I kind of had to.
Her?
Yes.
Okay.
So basically, because that microphone goes everywhere, literally into the wedges. And she sings really, really, really quiet until it's in her mouth and screaming. So I would just kind of try to get as much, feedback control as possible. I mean, I'm not afraid to dig into a graph by any means, but at that time, there's the point where you're just turning it down and not getting anywhere. So I would kind of have someone, on the console, and I would just know, like, okay, I'm going to walk in, duck everything down like 5-10 dB, and I'm going to walk my face into the side fill and like start creeping it up for me. And so I would just kind of know by dB where, on the fader, where it could be to where she was standing. And so it was kind of like a video game where I was just kind of following her around the stage and, trying to keep her safe. And she's quick, I didn't get it every time. And, there's other people on stage that need things as well. So it was just, a constant, active mix, we'll call it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have your hand on her fader, like kind of all the time, like just kind of 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. You're just kind of like to the side fills, to her.
My hands on Ed's fader the whole show.
Yeah. I mean, because you just can't get it clean enough and loud enough. You have to be able to ride, or, if she's down in, the wedges in front of her, I need the side fills to be able to come in and kind of pick up the slack for me. So I'm just kind of boosting all around there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can do, and we also had to keep her on an SM58 because, those microphones were literally taking a beating, most every night. And it just gets to a point where a microphone takes a hit, things get unstable. So if she dropped it one time, the high end's going to start getting weird. And
so we have three mics that we use every night for lead vocal. And they're on a Rat switcher. So it's essentially an AB switch, but I have an ABC switch. So I have main, spare, and the RF mic.
Yeah. Same.
And it's in a box, and it's just right on my console, and I can switch immediately to whatever mic we need. But we switch the main vocal mic out at least 4 times maybe 5 times during a show, because
Really?
it's getting
Yeah.
sweated out.
That's-
There's
yeah,
sweat in there.
exactly.
There's spit if he's dropped it. And
Yep.
that can change your whole sound. So I try to match
Yeah.
2 to 3 mics. We have like 16 dedicated to him, because at some point they got dropped and they're going back to Audix, get new capsules. But we try to keep 3 of them in sets of 3 that sound as close to identical as possible.
Yeah.
And we'll switch once or twice during the main set to a fresh mic, and then between each encore.
So
Yeah.
the mic switcher you're talking about, I think, just to clarify for people, it's like before the preamp even. So you're
The mic comes
switching
in.
to full input, like, so the channel on the console stays.
Yeah,
the
so
same,
it's 3 inputs, 1 output. So if we go to spare, Greg Nelson, our front of house engineer, he doesn't even know we've gone to spare, because
I love it.
techs run out there,
Yeah.
change mic. I've switched it. We have 1 channel. You're not sitting there having to go, oh shit, I made an EQ change. No, we're going to spare.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lifesaver.
And if you're using snapshots and everything, all those changes stay with your channel.
Yeah.
It's a game changer instead of all the Y cables that were going on.
Are you guys, I assume you guys rely pretty heavily on snapshots?
I do.
No?
Christina might, I don't.
No?
My band doesn't ever have the same set list, and they call a million audibles, and it's just better. I have everything I need for the most part, my cues and stuff up on the surface at all times. But I need to know, out of 200 plus songs that they could choose from, if they call them audible, I need to know what they're playing and what I need to be doing. So
yeah,
makes sense.
Well, it's nice when you can not do that, and there were times, with bands that didn't move around a lot. My snapshots a lot of the time were just like people are moving positions, and the instruments are changing a lot, and it just was impossible to physically make all the changes in a static scene. So, and then I think artists are now used to digital consoles as well. So they're like, oh, I can't have my guitar up 1 dB for this song and down. And so they've become kind of a part of creating that too. Well, I mean, I guess we created the monsters by doing it. But yeah, so I've gotten, just EQ changes, sometimes, fader moves and stuff like that. I don't get too crazy into my snapshot changes or what's scoped in there.
I'll try to finish up with some of these questions. What techniques do you use to deal with psychoacoustics? A band member hearing a problem that's just not there or can't be fixed for whatever reason. Turn the knob. Hey, it's better, right?
Patience.
Yeah.
Humor.
Don't talk down to them.
them, but maybe.
No, it's a real experience they're having. Their feelings are their feelings. So you have to deal with it. Oftentimes I'll just try like, hey, let's try a couple things, even if it's not going to change anything. Oftentimes a person just appreciates the effort of you acknowledging that they're experiencing something uncomfortable, trying to do something. And then if they'll just like, oh yeah, I guess that's just the way it is, then sometimes they'll let it go for the night. I would never second guess someone or say that doesn't exist. I might not have the time to dig into it. Like say on a one-off, if someone was like, do you hear that? I'm like, don't hear that. Don't know what you're talking about. Like, that's just kind of different. But, I don't dismiss them.
Yeah.
But I've learned from my band guys, I have one band guy that he can hear stuff that no one else can.
Yeah, there's always one.
There's always one, and he can hear stuff on different sides of the stage or in the PA. And, there's been times I'm like, I don't hear what you're hearing. and then we keep digging into it, and I'm like, son of a bitch, that's where that was coming from.
It is, yeah.
So, and and then sometimes it is just them needing extra attention.
Yeah.
No,
totally. It's not just technical. It's it's
a lot of emotion.
It's emotional.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. And if people ask like, oh, how do you work in the industry? It's like, well, you got to be nice to people and take what they say seriously. And try to collaborate and try to make it better. And
Yeah.
It's a monitor engineer's job. Is the whole point is to make everyone comfortable on stage, and so they can have a good show. And a good portion of that, obviously being a good technical engineer is good, but you need to be able to. They need to trust you, and they need to know that you are doing absolutely everything you can. For it to be as good as it can for them.
Yeah.
No, totally. That's awesome, guys. Let's see. Trying to find another question here. Talk about time aligning. No sound check, 20 minutes of line check. Which are your steps? What are your quick steps to get ready? What's your most important thing to get ready if you have very limited amount of time to get a show up and going?
Christina might be able to take that one better than I can. We always have production, so even if we're, a lot of times the band doesn't sound check. It's kind of they're kind of at a point of like, well, we can sound check or we can play 3 hours. Which one? So a lot of times they don't. My guys don't even sound check. So, and I have production and my desk and my file. So we're just gonna go. We'll be like, wish we had an extra 10 minutes, but then the band's not going to come on time anyway. So we do have an extra 10 minutes.
I'm typically carrying as well at this point, but there's times like the truck got stuck at a border or something and you're lucky to get your stuff there, for showtime. So in those days, you just need to make sure your ins are there and your outs are there, and then it's time to go. And, palms are sweaty and you're going to make it happen. But when you've got your wedges and your show file, it's not as scary anymore as it used to be when, you're just walking onto a strange stage with, a console you don't know and a bunch of wedges you haven't used and half of them work, and you're trusting someone you don't know that doesn't speak your language to patch the stage properly. So luckily those days are, more behind me, but you definitely learn a lot in those moments.
Totally. There's my friend Alish from Gain Media Lab. He does have a course on guerrilla mixing, monitor mixing. So I forget who wrote that question, but if you do want to check that stuff out, he's kind of got some good tips on that stuff.
Yeah.
So just to finish up, we have a couple questions about like COVID protocols. I know everyone's sick of talking about COVID now, but my friend Scott asked if you've done any concerts during COVID. Have you had to change anything in your process? I know you probably haven't really. The large scale production is just not happening right now. So I'm
at almost a year of being home. So
March 6th I'll be home for a year.
March 2nd here.
When we go back, there'll definitely be stuff that we need to change and do. I was
cleaning mics anyways. Kind of disinfecting.
I think our security and our management's probably going to have more of a game plan for us, and I haven't had to think about it because I don't have a show book. So
exactly.
Totally.
Yeah.
I saw some one of my clients, Heim. They have a bunch of shows they are kind of announced in this summer in the UK. It's like there's no way that's happening.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're I don't know if anybody, but it just goes to like look at how I don't think they're serious about doing concerts. I just think that like people have holds on everything.
Yeah.
All the booking agents have everything specced out for years at this point, a couple of years.
Right.
Yeah.
And everyone's everyone's kind of hopscotching what dates they have and when they're going to be pushed back to. And it's going to be interesting getting back to seeing how it goes.
Yeah. The only thing I can say, on any level, the singer at the very least should have at least 2 of their own vocal mics that they're carrying. And if you're the stage tech or the monitor engineer, you should be cleaning them on a regular basis anyway.
Yeah.
Or buying a whole bunch of freaking grills and changing them out. They don't cost, I mean, they don't cost that much.
Any good cleaning tips while we're talking about it? I mean, what do you usually use? Just like isopropyl alcohol, or
I either use alcohol or Listerine.
Listerine, a toothbrush to get lipstick out. You know?
Yeah. I don't have any lipstick anymore. So
I was gonna say.
Ed has a windscreen over his microphone anyway, so we're changing out the windscreens more often than actually cleaning the microphone grills at this point.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, I just call up Audix, and when we're ready to tour, and I'm like, please send me 50 or 100 of these, and they get, they end up, I don't know how much they are anymore, but they can't be more than $1 a windscreen. Yeah. And if it falls off and gets lost, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, one of the bands I work for has a very windscreen over the mic. He spits a lot. I won't say his name because it's embarrassing, but he spits so much because it's so soaked through. And like several times, like when we used to tour a lot, small clubs, like sweaty, just tons and tons and tons of windscreens, several per show. And like had run up to it with a towel and get it off and replace it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to keep that stuff clean. It's the mold's not good for you, not good for your voice. It's unhealthy.
Well,
but
it smells bad.
And it smells bad.
It smells bad. That's the biggest thing for me.
But yeah, totally. I mean, we're all going to have to be worrying about protocols.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, we're all going to be living, the tour is going to be living with each other anyways. So, I mean,
I don't
know. We'll all sure be vaccinated by then before touring starts.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I could see a lot of just kind of like tour bus stuff not happening, like more one-off concerts. Different type of routing. If planes are, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
A lot of questions.
I would like to do just residency someplace,
That sounds great. I like that idea.
Also, so like the one gig I've done, and I'm doing it again here in a couple of weeks with my friends, the Hold Steady. I'm just mixing. They do a residency every December, like at the Brooklyn Bowl in Brooklyn. And,
that's right. Yeah.
They do like 4 nights, and it's great, and everyone has fun. But we're used to doing it, so we just kind of go in and set up our whole thing again this year, and did a live stream, no audience, and they sold enough tickets. They sold way more tickets for that thing than they ever could have for 4 nights at the Brooklyn Bowl. So, I mean, managers are sitting around, and artists are sitting around realizing that you can sell tickets. If the production's good enough, and it doesn't sound terrible, you can sell a ticket. And I don't know, I think there'll be a lot more of that sort of thinking around booking shows. Like, you don't have to necessarily go do to sell 20,000 tickets. You don't have to go do an arena in this town. You can sell 20,000 tickets by this, making this show in New York City exclusive or whatever. There are different ways to monetize it, I think. So we'll see. I don't know. I think it'll be live streaming. Mixing will be a skill that a lot of audio engineers will have to learn. But I don't know. I'm hoping that maybe a little less kind of like grinding tour will happen. But we'll see. I think it might just be hard to find tour buses when it all gets going again.
I know. I think it's going to be hard to find, maybe not on the arena level, but I think for, theaters and clubs, I think there's going to be an issue with venues. Then there's going to be an issue with just the amount of companies that we've lost. And then, so that's busing or just rental companies. And then, you know, I don't know how much, but you know, we've lost a good portion of, you know, very experienced techs and engineers, you know, that just are not going to come back, or they decided to retire.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, after a year at home, it's hard to kind of reinvigorate yourself, I would imagine. I mean, I don't know. I'm excited to go back.
I am.
To me, it's the reason I got into it. I love doing it in the first place was to go travel and be around people and kind of like be. I love the people that work in production. You know, it's great to be around all y'all, and it's, I don't know, like, and those desires are even more so now. Like, I want to get back to that world. It's cool. And it's fun. It's fun doing those big shows. You know,
it's fun doing them.
It is, yeah.
Maybe we'll.
It's our second families, you know. So.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can see the festival circuit getting more robust too, with like people trying to do outdoor shows for the next, at least for a couple of years.
Yeah, the outdoor shows, and then just the amount of acts that are ready to tour. Yeah. And there's still just a limited amount of outdoor venues. So put together Lollapaloozas and go on tour, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, let's bring it back.
Yeah.
Well, hey guys, thanks so much for coming on and talking today. It was awesome to have you.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Nice to see you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully not too long. Get
I know.
Yeah.
Get some more shots in some arms and get some shows going.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
I was just gonna say, if anybody has additional questions and they want to reach out to me, you can feel free. I'll pop my email in, and you can email me if you want.
That's awesome.
Oh, sure. Thanks. Yeah, I can do the same.
I can send it on a little follow-up email here.
Yeah. So feel free to send out my email, and I'm always, right now I'm always around. So
cool. And
exactly.
Yeah. So everyone that registered, I'll send a little replay of this, and with the pictures of the monitor setups and those emails. But thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah. Thank you.
See you, Christina.
Right.
Yes. Nice seeing you guys. Bye.
Bye.